In 2025, my business grew from 5K a month to over 30K a month, largely attributed to BNI.
Business Network International, and we are the world's largest word-of-mouth referral organization.
So when Mike Adray agreed to be on the Moonshooters podcast, I knew I had to squeeze out everything he knows about growing businesses, and you get to tag along.
A referral, especially in BNI terms, is I've talked to the person about your business. I understand that they have a need for your services. They understand they have a need for your services. They're in the market for your services, and I introduce them to you.
For those who don't know, Mike is a huge deal. He's a BNI franchise owner, executive director of the founding region, one of the largest BNI networks in Southern California. So whether you are a BNI member, a business owner, or even someone thinking about quitting their 9-to-5 job and starting a business,
our main core value in BNI is giver's gain. And really what that says is if I help enough people get what they want, I will get everything that I want.
This episode, without exaggeration, can change your life the way BNI changed mine.
You still got the relationship with the client. You've solved the problem for them, and now you've helped somebody else.
Welcome, Mike Adray, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Mike, you have your shirt, there's BNI all over your shirt. So I know that a lot of the audience already know about BNI, but some of the audience might not know about BNI. So let's start with that. What's BNI?
So BNI stands for Business Network International, and we are the world's largest word-of-mouth referral organization that nobody's ever heard of. We have 340,000 members globally. We're in like 78 countries. I think we're almost at 80,000 members here in the U.S. And BNI is a system that's designed to produce referrals that result in real revenue for businesses. And in our past 12 months, BNI members have passed a little over 16.8 million referrals. And that's a referral is I referred somebody I know to you to use your goods or services. And that's resulted in over $25 billion in revenue to the members. BNI doesn't take any of that revenue. That's real dollars into members' pockets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of one of the greatest chapter, I would say. And I will give a testimonial right there and then. I joined BNI. I was making around $5,000 a month for my agency. Now, after 1 year and a half, I wouldn't attribute all of my revenue to BNI, but a majority of my revenue come from BNI. And I'm right now at around $30,000 a month. So it's a big jump for my business. And for me, it was a great opportunity not just to get revenue and referrals, but also to network and learn about other business owners, practice my public speaking, which I'm still I'm still learning to improve that skill. So yeah, it's been great. But let's break it down. Who is it for and who is it not for?
Great. So BNI is really for any small to medium-sized business owner. And understanding that the federal government has a different standard for a small business. I think their standard is anything under 500 million. So, but as you and I know small businesses, right? It's people like you who are owner-operators, or maybe they even have employees, maybe up to 50 or so employees. That's typically for the business owners or salespeople. Now, we do have many companies that have their employees as members. So New York Life comes to mind, Edward Jones, ADP, Paychex. These are all large corporations, but they have local sales representation. And those are commissioned salespeople for the most part. And so anybody that's working on commission or anybody that is a business owner, BNI is a great mechanism to grow that business, but also to build a referral base. So for example, let's say a payroll person working for ADP. They provide payroll and HR services to their people, to their clients. But beyond that, that's all they have in their book of business. But if they're a BNI member, they have now a room full of trusted resources. And let's just say their client, they're talking with them and it comes up that there's a tax situation or a CPA question, and maybe they don't have a good one or they don't have one at all, or they can't reach the person. That ADP person or that payroll person likely has a CPA in their BNI chapter, and they can refer their client to a trusted professional. So now they become an even more valuable resource besides the product or service I'm providing. Now I have a room full of trusted professionals as resources for my clients. And that's the value add that most people don't even think about when they join a group like BNI, but they quickly realize that they have all these resources to add to their book of business.
And I noticed that the referrals, they are kind of different types because there are before BNI, we would refer business to other people. But because you're not seeing that person next week, you're not seeing them over and over in your chapter, there's lack of accountability somehow. There's some unspoken type of trust that if I refer someone to my BNI chapter, they better, be at their A game because now they're going to have to meet me every week. So now they're accountable to me somehow. So it's a different level, a different type of referrals.
So most people say, hey, call this person, they can solve your problem. That's not a referral. That's a lead, right? It's a cold call with a name attached to it that you can blame. A referral, especially in BNI terms, is I've talked to the person about your business. I understand that they have a need for your services. They understand they have a need for your services. They're in the market for your services, and I introduce them to you. So I actually connect the people, and that's the close of the loop of the referral. Now, when you pass a referral, you're actually handing or lending your trust. So if I refer a client to you, I'm giving you my credibility. So I have credibility with my client, and they trust me, and if I tell them to trust you, I'm passing my trust to you. And that's where the accountability comes in. Because if we're in a chapter together, we do see each other every week, and we're talking to each other every week. Not only in the chapter meeting, but we're also having those one-to-one meetings outside of the meeting where we're strategically talking about what types of referrals I can pass you and what types of referrals you can pass me, who's an ideal client, who's not an ideal client. And so there's that level of communication. And so if I pass a referral to you, the next week I'm going to say, Naja, I passed that referral to you. How's it going? Right? And then you can let me know, hey, Mike, I haven't been able to get a hold of the person. And I'm like, really? Okay, let me call them. Let's call them right now. Let's close the loop. Or you can let me know, hey, I met with them and it's great. We're setting up to set up their social media and do their recordings, do their video production, and that's great. Or you might say, you know what, Mike, I really appreciate that referral. It wasn't quite the type of client I was looking for. They were looking for something a little bit different. So let me do a better job of educating you of who my ideal client is. So not only is there the accountability, hey, did you help my client? But there's also the feedback of whether this was a good referral for you or not a good referral for you, so that in the future, I know how to send you better referrals. And so the accountability is there, but there's also the ability to understand quality of the referral that I'm passing to you. And that feedback is invaluable.
What results can business owners expect when they join the BNI?
That's a great question, and it actually a conversation that doesn't happen enough. So oftentimes people think if they join a referral group, a BNI chapter, that the referrals are instantly going to appear. So I've joined, I've showed up, where's the referrals? And that's not how it works. In order to pass referrals, you have to build a relationship. And the stronger the relationship, the better the referral will be. And depending upon the type of business, you may need a very deep relationship before you can pass a referral. So for example, if there's a florist in our chapter, that's a pretty low trust referral. Like somebody mentions they have an event coming up, I need some floral centerpieces for this event I'm doing, this dinner I'm doing. That's an easy referral to give to the florist, right? Or I need flowers for my spouse, right? Those are low trust referrals. There's not a high dollar investment. There's not a lot of risk involved. And then there's other referrals like to an accountant or a financial advisor or a personal injury attorney like Chris. These are high trust referrals because now these people are talking to a professional about things in their life that are very, if not the most important thing in their life. Think about a financial advisor. In order to pass a referral to them, you got to know them, like them, and trust them enough that you can tell somebody that trusts you that they can trust that person with all of their future, right? All of their savings, their investments, their retirement. You can trust this person because you trust me enough to know that you can do that. I can't do that with somebody I just meet. I have to get to know that person. So depending upon the profession, referrals can come quicker or they can come slower. But until you build relationships to the point that people know, like, and trust you, you're not going to get a referral. And so how do you do that, right? Number one, meet with them regularly. That's why we have a weekly meeting for our BNI chapters. You meet with them regularly. You have one-on-one meetings, just person to person. Let's get down to the weeds, the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the details of our business, our lives, our family, like what do we do outside of work. Like those are all important things to build trust, to know who the person is as a whole. And then the best way to build a relationship is to give somebody a referral first. So if you go into any group, you have to go into it with an abundance mindset or a giving mindset. Our main core value in BNI is giver's gain. And really what that says is if I help enough people get what they want, I will get everything that I want. So if you go into a group with the mindset that I'm going to get to know these people as best I can and pass as many referrals to them as I can, the result is going to be that as soon as you pass somebody a referral, instantly their thought is, what can I do to repay this? Now, we don't require quid pro quo, right? It's just if I give you a referral, you don't have to give me a referral. You may not be able to give me a referral. You may not be in a position to do that, but you may know somebody who does. And that's an opportunity to take that relationship and still generate a referral. But if you help enough people first, you're going to have a room full of people looking to help you. And sometimes it takes a year or a little longer to really see a huge result. A sad thing that I see is many people will join an organization, join a BNI chapter. They'll pay for their 1 year membership. They'll get to the 7th, 8th month, and they're not seeing results yet, and they give up and they throw in the towel. And the truth of the matter is, if they would have just waited and got into their 2nd year, they would have seen amazing results. Our statistics show us that members who join and stay for at least into their 2nd year, 80% of them stay for 5 or more years.
Wow.
Because they're seeing the results at that point. But if they give up before they get into that 2nd year, or they don't get the results that they thought they were going to get before that 2nd year, and they give up, it's a lost opportunity. They'll never get that business.
Right. So I took mental notes from a lot of what you said. Number one, we're going to mark this as a one-to-one. So in BNI, everybody, in BNI, there's this app, and it's literally a gamified. It's gamification at its finest, right? Like referrals are gamified. The CEUs, we call them continuous education units, and one-to-ones, and there's like a chart and that
it's a scoreboard.
It's a scoreboard, yeah. So it's fun, and we have this friendly competition between chapter members on who gets to do more one-to-ones and CEUs and referrals, and this is a one-to-one. That's number one. Number two is when you mentioned giver's gain, it's huge. I will tell you this. Right now, I have a board full of clients, 16 clients. I could tell you that 90 or 95% of them, almost all of them, I started the relationship with giving without expecting anything in return, right? And so that is, I'm a living testament to that philosophy. So it's 100%. The third thing I want to say is the know, like, and trust. First, I heard this, I think from you initially, from the very beginning of my BNI journey. And this BNI, in know, like, trust, at first I didn't think about these 3 words. Like, what's the big deal, right? And then I went into like a rabbit hole of thinking, okay, no, all right. So I really, if I think about in the last 6 months who I did business with, who I paid money for, it's someone I know. It could be an online thing that I knew about. Right. So visibility is key, and that's what we built. Paris Lab is all about visibility with the cameras and the social media and all of this stuff. We provide that visibility to people. The second part is the like. Now, visibility, you could be a murderer and be visible for the wrong reason, right? So correct. People need to like what they're seeing. And, there's a recipe for that we can talk about. Like actually, this is a good question for you to answer, is like, how can people like me? And the third one is the trust, which is immensely valuable. And it starts with giving. So trust, people need to know for sure that you do what you're saying you're doing. And so the demonstration of that skill is very important. But let me pivot there and ask, how can I build a relationship in BNI? Of course, you mentioned that going into one-to-ones, but also, how can I make people like me?
So there's a lot of ways you make people like you. And the first way is to ask lots of questions. So if you're building a relationship, people love to talk about themselves. They won't admit it, but they do. Because people want to talk about what they know. And if you ask them a question about their profession, if they're competent, they'll be able to answer those questions. But if you ask them a question about themselves, now they get to tell their story. And now it's not some script. It's not some marketing piece that somebody's done for them that they've memorized and rehearsed and polished, and now they can just deliver it. Now they're talking from their heart. And to really get to know somebody, you have to see their heart. And there's many ways you do that. In conversation, asking questions. If somebody gives you a client that results in business for you, revenue for you, that helps support you and your family and your staff, how do you not like them, right? I mean, that's a huge way because they've given first. If you have a servant's heart, then giving is one of the most fulfilling things you can do. Yes, we are all in business and we all need to make money to sustain ourselves and to support our families and to do the things that we want to do. But what gives you joy? And I have not met a person yet who has not gotten joy from helping another person. And that could be helping them, they need help doing something, right? Helping them move, helping them solve a business problem, giving them a client that helps solve a financial problem, right? They need income to support their family and their needs. So giving them a client that gives them that income. So there's many different ways. And you'll see it I know you've experienced it in your BNI chapter. Many people are in business and they're the CEO, they're the CMO, they're the CFO, they're the janitor, right? They're doing everything. Now, what do they do when they have a business problem? Where do they go to solve that problem? They don't have a board of directors. They might have a peer group if they're a very accomplished business person. They might have a peer group. But mostly it's going to be family and friends. Do you really want to go talk to your family and friends about your business problems? Probably not. Probably don't want to admit them to your family and friends.
Of course.
Right?
They're judging you.
They are. And you don't want, and you're going to feel like, oh, I don't want to let them know I don't know this. Like I'm going to look like a failure, right?
Exactly.
So there's that vulnerability. But if you have a trusted group of professionals that you've built a relationship with, that you can go to them and say, hey, has anybody ever had this problem in their business? I guarantee you somebody has. Awesome. Tell me how you overcame that. Or I'm thinking of taking my business in this direction. Okay, you could try it and you might miserably fail or you might hit the home run. But what if you could run it by a group of trusted professionals first and let them help you filter through that process and really come out with a very focused plan rather than I'm going to kind of try everything to see what works. You've got your own personal board of directors.
And that's a completely different benefit that people don't talk about. And I think it's also a lot of the members are not utilizing it enough. I mean, given from my chapter, I wish that's the case in terms of like we actually sit and talk and discuss one problem for one business. We kind of become a mastermind group thinking to help our one seat of the chapter.
Absolutely. And we actually have one of our advanced trainings kind of focuses in that area. In fact, your chapter talked about it this morning. You're going to be hosting one of our advanced workshops called Building Power Teams. And a power team is a group of professionals that likely share the same target market. They may not necessarily be in the same field. So let's just say the trades. That's kind of a real obvious one that tradespeople can easily pass referrals amongst each other. And so they can easily form a power team. And if they meet in a power team, then that's where they get into that mastermind discussion. Like what's going on in the industry? Like, oh my gosh, my workers' comp rates just went crazy. Like I don't know what to do. Somebody might have a resource for that, right? Mm-hmm. So having those industry-specific conversations in power teams become a mastermind. A power team can also be, again, somebody who's dealing with the same client, but maybe in a different industry. Mm-hmm. So a real estate professional can be a part of a power team with tradespeople. Mm-hmm. Because almost every one of their clients, either buying or selling a house, needs something fixed or done or updated. And so they're dealing with the same clientele. But now you've got somebody who's outside of your profession that's part of your power team, and now you have a different perspective, mm-hmm. right? So now you and I are tradespeople, and we're talking trade all day long, but we're not seeing what the other people outside of trades are seeing about our industry or seeing the problems or the challenges in our industry. But now we have this person who's, let's just say, a real estate agent who has a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you gain that mastermind, that peer group mentality is mm-hmm. by having a diverse power team, and you get into those kind of discussions.
So for any business owner out there, BNI is a hack because similar groups, like you talked about peer groups, I've looked, okay? There are these mastermind groups and they start at 7,000, 8,000. If you're lucky, 10, 15,000 some people pay a year. Some people, and yes, maybe it's a different demographic or type of business owners that they go to that kind of groups. But so you're getting the same benefits for a much lower price tag. Number one. Number two, referrals, of course, is the obvious thing, public speaking. And now we discussed having your own board of directors in your chapter. There is one more that I don't know if you talk enough about it. I know you know about it, but I don't think you talk enough about it, which for me was a game changer, is reaching out to other BNI member outside of your chapter.
Absolutely.
Talk to me more about that.
So as I mentioned earlier, we're a global organization, right? We're in 78 countries, 340,000 members globally. Do you think there's a lot of people in BNI across the globe that do what you do?
Of course.
100%,
Yeah.
right? Are they competing for the same clientele you are?
Maybe yes, maybe not. Yeah.
Locally, probably not.
Yeah.
Right? So you have the opportunity to reach out and have one-to-one meetings with people in your industry that are in different markets, and you can have that industry conversation. You can pass referrals that way. When I started in BNI, I was a general contractor. I was a member. And I'll never forget this day. The phone rang, and it was a Florida area code. I almost didn't answer the phone because it's, right?
Spam.
Right? They're selling me something. But I was in a BNI mindset, so I answered the phone. And the gentleman introduced himself. He was a BNI member in Florida, and he was a contractor. And he said, Mike, I'm calling you for a couple of things. Number one, I found you on the BNI app, BNI Connect, right? So he looked into our member portal, BNI Connect, and he was looking for contractors in Southern California, specifically in Orange County. And there was a bunch. I was the only one that had my profile completed. So for those of you that don't know BNI, we have a member profile, and it's public facing and it's also internal facing. And your profile has your bio, your photo, your credentials,
Ideal clients.
what are the types of projects or things that you do, what's your specialty? Like it's kind of like your ad. And this is a missed opportunity for a lot of members. They don't complete their profile. And we say that's like taking out a full page ad in a newspaper and leaving it blank.
Exactly.
So this guy calls me because I'm the only one who has my profile complete. Introduces himself. He says, I'm a contractor in Florida and I'm a BNI member. And I'm like, oh, great. How can I help you? Right? And he goes, I'm looking for a contractor to give a referral to in Orange County. I'm like, okay. Tell me a little bit about the client. Tell me about the job. Let's see if it's a good fit. So it turns out the client is his sister. She had a pipe burst in her home. So first thing she does is she calls her brother the contractor. What do I do? How do I find a contractor? I don't want to go to Yelp or Google search and call a stranger. Like, what do I do? I need somebody in here I can trust. This is my home.
Trust. That's the keyword,
right?
Trust, yeah.
So her brother, being a smart BNI member, he goes, I got you. I'll get back to you. So he does his homework. He finds me, and we do a one-to-one. Right? We set up at this point it was Skype. We didn't have Zoom then. So we did a Skype call and he interviewed me. Tell me about your business. Tell me about the kind of work you do. Can you give me some examples? Can you give me some satisfied clients that I can reach out to? And so we had about an hour and a half meeting, and I gave him my references, clients that he could call, and he did his due diligence. He called my clients, say, hey, Mike gave me your name. He said he did some work for you. Can you tell me a little bit about the project? How did it go? Are you happy with him? How was the follow-up? Like, he asked all the right questions. And then about a week later, I get a phone call, and it's his sister. And she says, my brother Ryan spoke to you last week. He's a BNI member in Florida, and he said, you're the guy I need to use, so when can you come out and start work? I said, well, I have to come out and see the job first, right? I can't start yet until I see what it is and tell you what it's going to cost. She goes, okay, great, but when can you do that, and then when can you start?
So she's already sold. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
She's already sold. Like no matter what the price you're going to give her, it's going to be your job.
Exactly. And so that's how doing business by referral makes a huge difference. And that's how I built my construction business. When I did business by referral, about 70% of the time, there were no bid contracts. They didn't call anybody else. They didn't get any other bids because the person that sent them to me said, this is the guy you want to use. And they trusted them enough to say, okay, Mike, Naja said you're the guy. When can you start?
Exactly. And for me, I receive a lot of messages on LinkedIn or whatever, like people reach out. As soon as they mention I'm a BNI member, there's an instant trust. Like, okay, I know who you are, and I know what BNI stands for, and you're following that. And there's also that factor of accountability too, that there's like, because when we join, we have to do the swear, right? Like I swear to abide by the ethics of my industry and being an ethical person. This is huge.
It is huge. And so when you say that because they're BNI, they already have some credibility, it's because we do have a vetting process. And you said when you join BNI, you actually can't join BNI. You can apply, and they have to accept you. And so a BNI member knows that anybody that is in a BNI chapter went through an interview process. The membership committee interviewed them. They checked references. They checked to make sure they were appropriately licensed if required, if they had the right insurance if required. They did a check. And is it a deep background check? No, it's not. But it's 100% more than anybody that you call off of a Google page that you don't know. You're calling a stranger. At least at this point, you know that they've been vetted. There's a group of people who have the same mindset, who are living by the same BNI policies, the same code of ethics, that have accepted this person and said that they're an upstanding member. And at the end of the day, if there's a problem, there's accountability, right? So in BNI, does everything go perfect every time? No. Things happen. Things go wrong. Life happens. It's how you deal with problems that makes the difference for most business owners. And so if there's a problem and you're a BNI member, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I have this problem, and you solve the problem. If you don't solve the problem, we have a complaint process. And a membership committee handles complaint process. And they can actually remove a member from a chapter if they've violated any of our policies or our codes of ethic. So there is accountability even across the country. You can call and submit a complaint to a membership committee if somebody doesn't live up to our ethical standards.
And they will be banned from BNI International.
No.
Okay, national.
They are removed from that chapter, and that region is made aware. We don't ban anybody.
Okay.
We're a membership organization, right? So we don't ban people. However, if you are a prior BNI member, you have to indicate that on your application. And we tell our membership committees, if they are a prior BNI member, you need to contact the regional office so that you can find out what was the history, right? And why did they leave their chapter? People leave for legitimate reasons, right? They might move, their life might change, and the meeting day or meeting time might be a conflict, and so they need to look for a different chapter. They may change jobs, and therefore the profession now that they have is not open in their chapter, so they have to go find another chapter with that opening. So there's legitimate reasons for people to move chapters. But when you know that they've been in a BNI chapter, you contact the regional office, and you get that feedback, and you find out, was there a problem? Or was this just, hey, they needed to move because it was a legitimate reason?
Right.
And so you know that.
Yeah, and being removed from a chapter is a big deal. Right now, our chapter, the share value is close to $50,000. So that means that on average, every single member is getting back $50,000 worth of business for a $1,000, $2,000 investment. So that's what, 10x? Not even. I think it's
50x.
50x.
25 to 50x, right?
Exactly. And I mean, as a marketing person, we do digital marketing for a lot of our clients, and we right now there's no other advertising medium that can produce that kind of result. There's no 50x right now.
Right.
We will be very happy with the 10x if we did the 10x, but. So that is why I said it's a hack. Of course, digital is still very important. Being present on social media is very important. Running digital campaign, it's more scalable because now, that interview, right? We recorded 1 hour, 1 day. It can be viewed potentially thousands of times, and people can spend and watch it and listen to it again and again. So it's more scalable, what we do as digital marketers, but definitely for warm referrals, for trust-based, relationship-based, BNI is a game changer for a lot of small businesses out there.
Absolutely. And I want to go back and touch on something you talked about earlier when we were talking about peer groups, and you're saying, there's these groups out there you can join, and they're, $10, $15, $20,000 a year to be part of these peer groups. And those groups exist for a reason, and they exist for, CEOs of large corporations, right? CFOs of large corporations, because they're having conversations on a different scale than most of us.
Yeah.
And they're there for that purpose, right? For understanding how to do better in their company, how to position their company better, how to solve problems that are common in the industry. They're not there to get business. And those types of organizations are not focused on referrals. It's just peer support. BNI, our main focus is generating referrals, so generating revenue. The other parts they're the gravy on the top, right? But the primary mission of BNI is to change the way the world does business, do it by referral, and generate revenue and income for our members. Those other groups don't have that as a component. So that's a missing component in what they do. And that's good because they have their place in the world. You and I would probably never join a group like that. We couldn't afford to, and we don't need a group at that level.
Maybe one day we will.
Maybe, right? I'd love to be able to have those $1 million or $100 million conversations, right?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
It's not reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you mentioned that you cannot join a BNI, you can apply for a BNI. Talk to me about the process of someone's watching and listening and they say, okay, you know what, I'm convinced. What's the first step?
Go visit a BNI chapter. Listening to me speak, listening to you speak, your testimonial about BNI, doing your own research on BNI, you got to go visit a chapter.
And how do they do that?
So in our region, we have a regional website, bnica.com, and on that website we have everything. So there's a link to all of our chapters, so you can click on that and you can see where all of our chapters are, where they meet, when they meet, how they meet, and you can click on each chapter. You can see who's in the chapter. You can look at their profiles if they're complete. You can see what professions are in there. And so if you're astute enough to know who your potential referral partners are, now you can really look strategically and see, okay, are there some referral partners already there for me? Okay, and you got to go visit the group because while we all use the same policies, we all use the same code of ethics, we all run the same meeting agenda. Every chapter has its own personality, right? People are different. And so, a lot of folks talk about what's the vibe in the room, right? It's got to be your vibe. So go visit the chapter. I think any chapter you visit, you're going to be impressed with. The people are going to be warm and welcoming because they have a servant's heart. They have a giver's gain mindset. So they're probably going to ask you how they can help you. They're going to meet you and they're probably going to say, how can I help you? Right? And where else do you go meet a room full of strangers and they ask you that first? Usually it's, can I sell you something?
Yeah.
But they're going to ask, how can I help you? And so visit a chapter, and then if the vibe feels right, then you can apply. You fill out one of our applications. It's a simple online application. You'll put down the payment for your membership. You'll do an online video interview. We have a self-paced interview. We have the same standard questions that are asked of every person. You answer those, and we send all that information to the membership committee. They will review that. They will check references. We send your reference check with it. They're going to contact your references, and they may have additional questions for you. So they may ask some specific questions that maybe are germane to your industry or your profession that aren't covered in our standard interview, and they want to ask some additional questions. They'll do that. So we tell people, go visit, submit an application, continue to visit the chapter while they process your application. Ideally, we process applications in 1 to 2 weeks. So you're going to visit a couple of times probably while your application is in process. And then if they approve you, they will induct you into the chapter. And that's where you talked about the code of ethics. We all stand when we induct a new member, and we all recite the code of ethics for the new member and reminding us all of why we are here and what we are promising to adhere to. And if, unfortunately, they don't accept you, maybe your category is already filled or they determine you're not quite a good fit for that chapter, the money is refunded, or our regional office will reach out to see if we can find another chapter for you.
Yes, so that's a very important note. So when you're picking a chapter, you probably could see if your profession seat is filled or not before even visiting, or no?
You could, but I would always don't let that keep you from visiting a chapter, because you may look and see that there's somebody, you may be an insurance person, and you might look and say, oh, well, they have an insurance person, so I can't go there. Well, there's a lot of different categories for insurance. We have commercial insurance, we have property and casualty, which is your home and auto insurance, we have life insurance, we have health insurance, we have supplemental benefits. Those are all separate seats. So just because you see somebody in your industry in a chapter, it doesn't mean that your seat isn't available. So we always say, go visit the chapter, talk to the membership committee. It's up to them to determine if your seat's open. And oftentimes, We even see chapters split seats. So for example, there's a residential real estate agent, right, in every chapter. I've seen a chapter that's had 2 or 3 real estate agents. I've seen them do it buyer agent, seller agent. Because there's some that only want to deal with buyers, and there's some that only want to deal with listings, sellers, right? And so there are some people who have some niche businesses. And so there's an opportunity to fine tune those seats even within a BNI chapter. I've seen the same thing with financial advisors. So some financial advisors have a minimum investment amount. And let's just say you have a very accomplished and successful and seasoned financial advisor that's in your group. They might have a minimum of $250,000 in investable assets before they'll take on a client. Okay, so that means anybody that I know that doesn't have $250,000, I can't refer them to that person. So what do I do with them? I've seen chapters that say, we've got somebody who has $1 million, $500,000, $1 million, $250,000. And then we have somebody else who will take people just starting out. Hey, I want the clients who want to put down $50 a week into their retirement account.
But what if they overlap? Like the person who can take less than 250,000 in investable assets can also take someone with 500,000.
They can, but they're not likely to. And so that's where you get to talk about in the meeting what the difference is between the two of us, right? So if I'm $250,000 and above and you're everything under $250,000, the chapter kind of knows that, right? We're talking about that in our one-to-ones. We're talking about that in our weekly presentations. And so we're kind of drawing the line in the sand so everybody knows where it's at. Now, the person who's taking the people starting out, they probably are a newer financial advisor. And they may not be well equipped enough to help somebody who's got $1 million investments, right? So they might partner with that person. Right? They might do a share of that client, right? Or he might refer the client to them, right? And then they could have an arrangement on the side for that. That happens a lot in professions where there's a revenue share, right? So if it's somebody that I can't quite help and you can, there might be a revenue share situation, but it's not required. Oftentimes it's, I can't help this person, I want you to help them, and they're still going to like me because I solved their problem for them. So there are ways to split it. We're getting in the weeds a little bit, but that's what membership committees are for. And don't try and figure it out on your own. Talk to your membership committees. And if you're a membership committee member and I've muddied the water for you, reach out to our Director of Member Services, Ken Keegler, or myself, and we'll help you understand how to navigate that process. Because now it's really kind of technical.
And it's delicate because
it is.
It could create a lot of tension between people. So take Paris Lab, for example, my company. My company is an innovative side of marketing, like digital marketing. And digital marketing require, when you're doing social media today, is all about video. So now we are bridging the gap between a video production company with $100,000 worth of equipment in here and a marketing company. So in this case, yeah, maybe the only videographer would be not overstepping on my type of business, would be a videographer for a wedding, for a personal event.
Yes.
But if this videographer start to take corporate clients to do social medias, that's kind of what we're doing here. So how does that line drawn? That's
a great question. And so let's just take your example, right? So a videographer can come in. You can have a videographer that does just weddings. That's their bread and butter, right? They don't want to do events. They don't want to do birthday parties. They want to do weddings, right? There are people who have that niche of a business. You could have a videographer that does that. You could have a videographer that does corporate events. And you could have just a general videographer. But likely any of them or all of them don't have the social media component. They don't have the ability to do what you do and bring that robust social media presence. They could actually be a referral partner for you because they've got a book of business. And let's just say they're doing corporate video, right? They're doing a lot of corporate video stuff. And they're giving that content to somebody, maybe somebody in-house, right? That in-house person may not be getting the results, right? It could be, and I've seen this happen, they could be shooting the content and they're giving the content to the owner and the owner's giving it to their cousin or their son or their daughter, right? Or their TikTok relative, right? And they're probably not getting the results. That videographer could have, because they've got the trust, They've got their business, they could have that conversation and say, look, what kind of results are you getting, right? And if they know enough about your business, Naja, and they can ask the right questions of their client and figure out that, okay, Naja really is going to get them better results. Now they know how to start that conversation with their client and say, look, I know you've got this person doing this for you, and these are the kind of results you're getting, this is what you're spending. I actually have somebody that I know, like, and trust that can take what we're doing and enhance it with adding the robust social media piece of it. And if need be, you might even have a higher production quality or production solutions that they don't have, right? Maybe they are a single camera shop.
Right.
They can't do something like this.
Right.
Right? But they can then say, look, I can do these events for you. I can absolutely do this for you. If you want to go next level, you want to start doing podcasting, video casting, you want to build out a very robust social media catalog that you can use going forward, let me bring in my partner, Naja, and then you guys work together.
Got it. Yeah. Clear.
And there could be events
Where I need people.
right. You need other camera operators, right?
Yeah, all the time.
And what if it's something that's just really not quite your cup of tea?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got somebody who can do it for you.
Yeah.
Right? And you can give them business too. Because you've got a threshold that you want to stay above, right?
For
with
sure.
your book of business.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't mean that book of business below has to just go away.
Yeah.
No, you hand that off to somebody. You still got the relationship with the client.
Yeah.
You've solved the problem for them, and now you've helped somebody else who's in return going to want to help you.
Yeah. Absolutely. You mentioned a little bit, how did you get into business, into BNI? So talk to me about your transition from being in construction into now owning the franchise of one of the founding region, which is one of the most. I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, it's pretty
It's one of the big
prestigious.
important.
It's pretty remarkable. So in 2010, I had a handyman construction business, and I was doing well. I had 6 guys working for me full time. I had put the tools down in 2003, so I wasn't doing the work anymore. I was running my business. I wasn't working in my business, so I owned more than a job. And I was successful. I was doing well. I was spending a lot of money advertising. I was spending about $4,000 a month. And this was really before social media kind of really hit. And I was doing the trifold door hangers. I was paying I was printing, 50,000 flyers at a time, and I was putting out about 10,000 flyers a week. I was paying a service that had the guys that walked around and hung them on the doors. And I was getting about 40 or 50 calls a week from that. So, and I was the only one doing the estimates. So I went out and looked at every job. So think about it, do the math. I'm getting 40 or 50 calls. And by the way, I was answering my own phone still. And so I was pretty busy. I was the pretty typical solopreneur contractor, right? So I was doing everything but the work. I was answering the phones. I was looking at the jobs. I was preparing the proposals. I was managing the jobs. I was collecting the payments. I was ordering the supplies. I was coordinating shipments, troubleshooting, follow-up, and oh yeah, I had to do the marketing too. So I knew that something needed to change. It wasn't sustainable. My typical day was up at 6, making sure the guys had everything they needed for the day. We usually started about 7:30 or 8 because we were working in people's homes, so we weren't start too early. But making sure they had their supplies, making sure I answered their questions, and then I went out and spent the day doing the calls, right? So 40 calls a week. I was seeing a lot of people every day, and in between that, I'm answering phone calls, setting the next appointments, talking to my guys, solving problems, talking to clients, and then I got to go home, eat a little bit of dinner, lock myself in my office until about 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
I call it the night shift.
The night shift. And then I got to write those estimates that I went and saw that day and prepare them and send them out and make sure I'm ordering supplies for the next day, right? And so I was grinding it. I was working probably, 14, 15, 16 hours a day. And that was just Monday through Friday. Now, on Saturday and Sunday, I got to pay my bills, do my collections. Oh, I had to do payroll, make sure my insurance is up to date. I had to do everything else, right, that you take to run a business. And then Monday it started all over again. I knew that wasn't sustainable. I did not know about BNI. I got invited to BNI, my first meeting, by a complete stranger. I was having breakfast in a local cafe. So picture your typical diner, local cafe. There's tables and there's the counter, right? And where all the singles sit. And typically it's the same group of people, right? It's the regulars. For those of you old enough to remember Cheers, it's everybody knew your name when you walked in the place. And so I was that guy. I was sitting at the counter. It was the same 8 to 10 guys every week, every morning. We had breakfast with them, talk about the world, our business, and went and did our day. A lady walks in and says, hey, who's driving the construction truck outside? Because I had signs on my truck. So that's me, reach in my pocket, get out a business card, hand it to her, and she goes, awesome, great. She goes, tell me a little bit about your business. So I told her, we offer handyman services. We also do general contracting, kitchen, bathroom models, repairs. She goes, great. She goes, can I ask you a couple questions? Sure. She goes, are you looking to grow your business? Well, yeah, everyone is.
Everyone.
Yes. And she goes, great. She goes, are referrals important to you or important to your business? Nobody's ever asked me that question before. And I'm like, well, yeah. She goes, great. She goes, I have a group of people that are meeting, and we're looking for somebody like you to give referrals to. Would you be interested in meeting them? Now, everyone at the counter is paying attention, and I'm looking at the guys, and they're looking at me, and we're thinking, am I getting punked? Am I on candid camera? Like, this is a weird conversation, but I'm intrigued. And I'm like, okay, yeah. She goes, great. We're meeting for lunch today at this very same restaurant in the back room. I'd love to have you come so I can introduce you. There's going to be about 30 or 40 people there. I'd love you to introduce you to this group. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing anything for lunch. I'm in. So I went to that very first meeting. And it actually wasn't a chapter meeting. It was a brand new chapter that was forming. And it was their very first interest meeting they had. And so there was a director there, and they explained what BNI was, kind of give us a high-level view of it, told us how it works, told us about the referrals, told us some of the successes people had. And then they said, and there's only one seat per profession. We only allow one person per professional specialty in each group. And she happened to say, so for example, we only allow one general contractor. Well, there was another general contractor in the room that day. And we literally both looked at each other, looked back at the application, looked back at each other, and started filling out the application. Like, game on, right? So we both filled out our applications, we put it in, and the director was acting as the membership committee. She interviewed us both, interviewed everybody else, and it turned out we actually both got in the chapter.
Because different, the same what you just
So
explained.
we were just talking about.
Yeah.
So the difference was he focused on the outside. He was a general contractor, but he did hardscape, landscape, pools, spas, outdoor kitchens, outdoor living spaces. In fact, he did like high-level stuff. He was published in Home and Garden. A lot of his jobs, like he was $250,000, $500,000 jobs. Didn't do any of that. I did everything on the inside. He did nothing on the inside. So when we both got in, of course, we both said, well, wait a minute. You said one per profession. She goes, let's sit down. Let me explain this to you. So she explained it to us. And we both went, oh, yeah, I'm okay with that. That works. And she goes, by the way, she goes, the two of you will probably pass more business between each other than anybody else in this chapter. And we're like, well, that's probably not likely. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, rivalry.
It's still, right? And we didn't know each other. Right?
There's no like and trust.
No
there.
like and trust wasn't there yet. We knew each other. There wasn't the like and the trust.
Yes.
So the chapter kicks off. We launched with 22 members. We had our kickoff event. We call them visitor days, kickoff events. We had about 90 visitors. We had like 15 new applications come in that day. 2 weeks later, we're at 32 members, right? And my journey begins. I get involved in the membership committee right out of the bat. They say, hey, you want to get involved, you want to do better in BNI, get into a leadership role, right? So accountability's high on my personal list. And so I'm like, I want to do that. Like, I want to make sure we have quality people in here. I'm about that. So get into the chapter, we're doing business, things are growing. The other contractor and I, we're still kind of looking at each other a little sideways. We haven't passed any business. Get into year 2. And before I get deep into that relationship with him, I want to talk about how my business changed at that point. So when I joined BNI, I learned about owning a job and owning a business. If your business requires you to do the day-to-day and cannot function without you, you likely own a job.
Correct.
And I learned that through some of the education in BNI, and I got exposed to people like Michael Gerber and the E-Myth Revisited, and started really broadening my mind.
And that's the beauty about BNI, the education component.
Yes.
Yes, you learn a lot every day.
I never would have heard any of this on my own because it was just me, myself, and I in the mirror, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I learned all this, and I said, okay, I got to pivot. Like, I knew it wasn't sustainable, but how do I change this? And so I met with a director, and they said, why don't you just do business by referral only?
Only.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. How's that work? So we talked about how I could really leverage my BNI membership. And I was getting BNI. So my first year, I got about $20,000 in revenue. I thought, this is great. At the time, I think the membership was like $800, $20,000 ROI. This is awesome. Like, it even paid, I mean, we were paying, at the time, I think we were paying like $75 a month for the meeting fee and covered all that and made then some, right? I was very happy. Second year, I doubled that. But what I learned to do is to stop doing all the advertising. So remember, I was spending about $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got about a $50,000 raise right there. Stopped spending that money, and I stopped doing 40 appointments a week. I said, I'm only going to do business by referral. I'm only going to do appointments 3 days a week, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm only going to do 5 appointments a day.
The quality of these appointments went up to the roof because when you do a door hanger, right? These are window shoppers.
Yeah.
They don't know you. They're like you're some random guy. But when you are referred with a BNI member, the quality of these. That's what we talked about earlier. The quality is so much different.
Yeah, and I can actually demonstrate that. So I'm a data guy. Like I dig into numbers. And so I was doing 40 estimates a week. I was closing about 10 jobs a week. So 25% close ratio, which is amazing in the trades. And keep in mind, we were doing some mostly handyman work. We did kitchen and bath, but mostly handyman work. And my average transaction was $1,000. So usually a couple of days worth of work. When I changed my business model and I only did 15 appointments a week, I was closing 13 jobs a week. So I cut my sales cycle by 2/3. I went from 40 calls to 15 calls. I went from closing 10 to closing 13. That's amazing. But what's even more amazing is my average transaction went from $1,000 to $5,000. And as I said earlier, 70% of those appointments were no bid contracts. They were not calling anybody else. Now, that doesn't mean I charge them more. I charge what I charge. But it means I wasn't competing against every other guy out there who was willing to, work for $100 a day.
Yeah.
Right? Who's a pickup truck and a bag of tools, and that's, he just wanted to put gas in his truck and have dinner that night. I'm not competing against that guy anymore. So it changed what I did. I stopped working the night shift. I got my weekends off.
Beautiful.
And I was able to scale my business to the point so that my first year in BNI, I got about $20,000 in revenue. Second year was 40. Third year was 80. Fourth year was 160. When I got to my fifth year, I was doing over $350,000 a year in revenue just from BNI referrals. I had stopped all other forms of advertising. I wasn't doing social media. I wasn't doing anything. I was doing BNI, and I grew my crew from 6 to 8. I was able to pay my crew. I gave them, over that period of time, they got about a 30% pay raise. I got a pay raise.
Yeah.
And everything was great.
Then what happened? How did you transition from that into owning a BNI franchise?
So, they always say, get involved.
Okay.
And we say that in BNI, get in a leadership role. I was in a leadership role. I was doing great. And then the director approached me and said, hey, we have this program called the Ambassador Program. We have BNI ambassadors. And I think you would be a great fit for that. I'm like, okay, what's that? So they told me, you go out and you visit other chapters, you support another chapter, you get to help them find the same success that you found in their BNI membership that you found in yours. And so you kind of just get to be the cheerleader, the little bit of a coach. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I'll do that. So I did that, got 1 chapter, then I got 2 chapters. And then I was into it probably about 3 or 4 months, and the director came back and says, hey, I think you should be a director now. And I'm like, well, I'm still figuring out this ambassador thing yet. Like, I think I need to do this. And they're like, no, you're ready to be a director. I'm like, let me do this a little bit more. So I did it for a couple more months. Every week she was calling me, You ready to be a director? You ready to be a director? You ready to be a director? And so finally I said, yeah, okay, what's a director? Tell me about that. So she was the executive director, which is what my role is today. She made me a director. I started supporting 4 chapters. I took over running the ambassador program. I was now training ambassadors, coaching ambassadors, supporting 4 chapters, still a member of my chapter.
And still running your own business.
And still running my own business. Okay. That's how much extra time I got from doing business by referral.
Right.
So now I was still working the same hours. I was still had nights and weekends off, but now my business was continuing to grow. And now I had visibility throughout the region. And I was getting referrals from everywhere, other chapters, because why? They knew me, they liked me, they trusted me. Why? I passed them referrals. I helped them get more money from their BNI membership, so I helped them. They wanted to help me. And then out of the blue, one day, the executive director asked me, if you could be doing anything else in life, what would it be? Now, people don't ask you those kinds of questions, and you certainly don't have a prepared answer, and I didn't. So I thought about it for a couple of minutes, and my gut reaction was, I want to do what you do. And she said, really? Why? I said, I think you've got the greatest job in the world. You get to go around and just help everybody be better and grow their business. Like, there is no more rewarding job I can think of in the business world that you can do. And you're making a living at it. Like, that's awesome.
I mean, that's what I think of myself. I think I have the best job because I create a platform for people to grow their business and deliver their message to the world. Like, we have a giant moon here. You know why? Because it's a moon shooter. Because everybody, you are a moon shooter.
Yeah.
I'm a moon shooter. People who start businesses are the minority of society, especially successful businesses, because we are putting a brake on the traditional 9-to-5 rat race. We are saying, we want to be our own boss, but not only that, we want to do things better in the world. We want to contribute a different thing, a different, we
want to make a difference.
We want to make a difference.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that happened. You said you wanted to take her job.
I said I wanted to do that. And so then our conversations between her and I changed, and she started having BNI business conversations. And that's why I really started to understand that BNI was a business, right? I thought she had a job. Now I come to understand this was her business. Oh. And so now we started having those kind of conversations. She started saying, hey, I want to run something by you. Like, I'm thinking about doing this with this chapter. What do you think? Or I'm thinking about changing this in the region. What do you think? I've got this problem in the region. How would you solve it? And so we started having those kind of conversations, and it really kind of gave me a peek behind the curtain of how a BNI franchise runs. And I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is amazing. I've never heard of anything like this. So I asked her, I go, how do I do this? She goes, well, you got to buy a franchise. I'm like, how do I do that? She goes, well, you got to find one that somebody will sell you, first of all, because there are none for sale. Like, there are no open franchises. They're geographic territories. There are no open geographic, unless you want to move to North Dakota. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. So I said, okay. And at that point, I had been in BNI for several years. I'd gone to the international conference, the national conference. So I'd met directors from around the country and the world. And I knew some of the other executive directors or franchise owners in Southern California. I picked up the phone. I started calling everybody. Hey, this is Mike. Remember me? We met at conference. Yeah. Hey, I just wondering, would you like to sell your region? Didn't go over so well with some folks.
Right.
Some people were like, leave me alone. But I came to realize that there weren't any for sale. It wasn't a reality. So I thought, okay, well, maybe that's a pipe dream. I'll go back to, I love being a director. I'll just put that on a shelf and I'll go back and do that, run my business. I'm still happy. I'm getting joy from what I'm doing, making a good living. So I'm just going to continue to do that. And so about a year later, I'm actually in a room with the executive director, and we're training new directors. Now I've gotten to the point where she's having me train new directors. This is how much I've learned about the business. So I'm training the new directors, and in the middle of the meeting, she picks up her phone, which is, you don't, in BNI, you don't pick up your phone in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
But she looks at it, and she stops the meeting. And she said, Mike, you need to go call this guy right now. Take this phone and go call this guy right now. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I thought something happened in one of the chapters, or my family, or like, I was like,
Yeah.
What happened? And she goes, my husband, Adam, had just gotten a call from BNI headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina. And they asked him this question: do you know somebody that you could refer to us that would buy the San Gabriel Valley, the founding region where BNI was started. We're going to sell it. At that point, it had only been owned by BNI and run as a company-owned franchise. There had never been a franchise owner because headquarters used to be in that region. So they never wanted headquarters, the global headquarters, to be in a franchise region. So they moved to North Carolina a few years back, and now they want to sell this region. They want somebody to own it and run it. So they called her and said, do you know somebody locally that would? And she said, Mike, you got to go call this guy.
Wow.
I stepped in the hall, made the phone call.
And the rest is history.
A year later, I bought the San Gabriel Valley. 5 years later, I bought the rest of San Bernardino County.
Beautiful.
So now I have everything from Pasadena all the way through San Gabriel, Pomona, Rancho Cucamonga, all the way through all of San Bernardino County.
And the construction job or construction business?
Yeah, so I knew right away that I wasn't going to continue to do that because this is my passion now,
Yeah.
right? So I tried to sell that business, and I wasn't very successful at it because I thought I had positioned it well for a sale, but I had missed a few key things. I now know how to coach people on that. But it ended up the best possible scenario. I sold the business to one of my longest term employee. He had been with me for 15 years.
That's the best kind of
I sold it to
transitions.
him and his son.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's the best
awesome.
kind of transitions, is to give to the people who have contributed to your business.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, look, he said, Mike, I'd love to buy it, but I can't afford to buy it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll put you on the easy payment plan.
Yeah.
Like I don't need a chunk of money out of this. I've already got this other thing going.
Right.
You can pay me over time, and that's what we did. So it worked out great.
So now you are the founding region franchise owner, and you as a business owner, what are your highs and your lows, basically, as a business owner?
So, I do want to also clarify why we call it the founding region, because the very first BNI chapter was started in Arcadia, California, which is in the region, and that chapter is still in existence today. So we have the world's oldest BNI chapter still in existence in our region.
That's awesome.
They turned 41 yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Happy birthday, Founder Chapter. And they're called the Founder Chapter.
And it started by Dr. Ivan Meisner.
This was the initial group that started by Dr. Ivan Meisner. You guys got to go back and listen to the BNI story, how he started it. He's got a book coming out called Garage to Global that'll tell that whole story, but you got to see how he started it, right? So highs and lows. I have a lot of highs, and they're often. The highs are when a member shares with me how BNI has changed their life, how it's changed their business, what it's allowed them to do that they wanted to do in life with their family, whether it's travel, whether it's put their kids through college, whether it's the dream vacations. It's enabled so many people to do that and to have a much more sustainable lifestyle. Like our parents were nose to the grindstone. Like you gotta work hard. You gotta put in 20 hours a day to be successful. Today's generation, my generation, our kids' generation, they're more about work-life balance, and I've come to really appreciate that. Especially when I was able to change the way I did business because of BNI and my construction business, I found that work-life balance. And most people have to work for somebody else to have work-life balance. BNI allows people to be their own boss, have their own business, their own company, and have the work-life balance. And so hearing those kinds of stories, hearing how somebody got their dream referral, that gives me joy. Seeing members renew their membership for 2 years at a time or 5 years at a time. Like we've got members who,
stamp of confidence.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 5-year membership, like we only had 1-year memberships up until a few years ago, and then we introduced the 2-year membership. And then a couple years ago, they came out with a 5-year membership. And I'm like, oh, nobody's ever going to buy a 5-year membership. Boy, was I wrong. We had some brand new members come in with 5-year memberships, which was pretty astounding. But we had many seasoned members who said, oh, I can buy 5 years at a time for a discount? Sign me up. I'm not going anywhere, right? So to see that happening, it's good for me financially, right? Because I've got a long-term client now. And that's what I loved about this business model. It's the recurring revenue business model. But it's only recurring revenue if you're delivering success.
Correct.
And so I always in life look for the win-win situation. When I sold my construction business, it was win-win. Gave it to my employees. They bought it from me. They won. I won. I look at BNI as the same way. I can't win unless my members win first. I have to help them find success first, to the point that when it comes time for them to renew their membership, there's no question in their mind. Oh, of course I'm renewing. When that happens, that's my win. Because now I know I'm making a difference in that person's life. I know that they're following what we're teaching and the education that I've brought to our region, my mindset, my philosophy, my one-on-one coaching. I have one-to-ones with members all the time, and really help them fine-tune their BNI membership. I coach them in their business if they want. I'm very accessible to my members. And to see them get that success, see them get over that hill, see them tell me, I just hired my first employee.
Yeah.
Or,
Which is what I'm about to do right now.
Right? Or listening to Chris this morning talking about, right, he's at 15 employees. By the end of this year, he's going to be at 30 employees.
Yeah.
That's just pure joy.
For sure.
Right? The lows.
The lows. That's what everybody wants to know.
The
Because
lows.
business is hard.
It is. So the great thing about BNI is there are no networking emergencies. So there are no in the middle of the night calls that a pipe burst or, electrical circuit failed or, a fence fell down or something like that. So there are no networking emergencies. But there are sad times. And the sad times are when I see somebody join a chapter and quit in their first year because their expectations weren't set in the beginning properly. And we have to do a better job of that as an organization, that when somebody comes and applies to a chapter, they need to understand, based upon their profession, this may take a while before you're going to get referrals. You have to invest in this. You have to pour into this what you want out of it. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Now, there are businesses that join that see immediate success. Typically, your low-trust referral businesses, right? Florist, mobile phones, I'm having a hard time. Hairdressers for men, not for women. That's a high trust referral. I can get a bad haircut and 2 weeks later it's good for a woman. If it's bad for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Different businesses have a different pace of getting referrals. And it's really sad when I see somebody leave in their 6th, 7th, 9th, or 10th month because, and we ask them, why are you leaving? It's not working for me. I'm not getting the results I wanted. And I'm a kind of a visual person as well. And I always envision this one, we call them memes now, but at the time it was a comic. And it was the typical, you see a miner, he digs a mine shaft down, and then he starts digging across, right, looking for the pot of gold, the jackpot of gold, or the diamonds. And they're right here, and he gets to here, and he says, I'm tired, I give up. He drops his tools, and he leaves. The next guy comes in, and boom, right?
Yeah.
I think that happens too many times to our first-year members. Like I said earlier, 80% of our members that get into their second year stay for 5 years or more. And here's what we know. People join BNI to make more money. And we ask people in their first year, why did you join? Grow my business, make more money, get referrals. When we ask people in year 2, 5, 10, 30, 40.
By the way, I attended the awards ceremony, and there are people who have been in BNI 40 years.
We have a member that was they're a 40-year member. Her mother, it's a travel agency. Her mother was in that very first group with Ivan, and early on she went in and took over that membership for her mom and continued it. So they're a 40-year member. We asked them, why did you renew? Why did you stay? And money is never the first answer. It's the relationships, the people in the room, the people that I've met in the room, the relationships that I've built, they become an extension of your family. They become your support system. They become your peer group. They become your board of directors. They become the people that encourage you to continue to get up every week and give your weekly presentation and to give your feature presentation and to become a better public speaker, to get confidence in your business, to be able to effectively talk about your business in what most people call an elevator pitch. How many people out there can concisely tell you about their business in 30 seconds or less? Very few. Almost every BNI member can, because we teach you how to do that.
And we rehearse it every single week.
We rehearse it every week, and we teach you how to do that. Like, we don't just say, here's BNI, go. I think really, I mean, yes, we're a referral organization, but we're really an education organization. Like, there is so much education that we offer. We have our live education. We have our online learning portal, BNI Business Builder. There's over 10,000 hours of on-demand learning. And it's not just BNI, like, it's business learning, right? There's a lot of different things you can learn.
The Member Success Program.
Member Success Program, how to scale a business, lots of things like that. How to do a weekly presentation, how to do a feature presentation. Those are the things that we teach to people and make them successful. And I just thought of another thing that gave me joy, and it happened this morning. So there's a member in your chapter, and I don't want to call him out by name, but I spoke to him about it this morning. And I remember when he joined this chapter, it was about 3 years ago. And he wouldn't look people in the eye when he talked. When he stood up to talk about his business, you could barely hear him. He looked down when he talked about his business. He was shy, right? He's in a profession that's not people-facing, right? He's kind of a behind-the-scenes kind of a professional. So he's an introvert. And by the way, a lot of people are introverts. You'll find more introverts in BNI than you'll find anywhere else, because what BNI teaches people is how to be a situational extrovert. I watched this person today stand up and run a BNI meeting. From 3 years ago, he couldn't look you in the eye and tell you about his business, to today he stood in the room in front of 40 people and ran a BNI meeting and did an amazing job.
Correct.
Right? So I guess everybody in the chapter knows who it is now.
Exactly.
But that's joy.
But you know what's interesting is that in that same meeting, there is another member, I'm not going to name them, but they're just joined, and that person is the person you're talking about, but 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He's in the same seat. He's shy, he's low tone, he doesn't, he's still not getting that confidence speaking, and I can see that person, if he continue work BNI, doing it the right way, he will be like the person who ran the meeting today.
And why does that happen? Because I said BNI becomes like an extension of your family. You're in a room full of people that know you and like you. Some of them probably trust you at some point, right? You're building trust still, so that takes time. But they're there because they want to see you succeed. They're there to support you. You're in a room full of friends. When you look out there, public speaking, by the way, is the number one fear in people. Dying is number two.
I heard that.
Right? Public speaking is the number one fear. So think about, where are you comfortable speaking? If you are an introvert, if you don't like to speak in public places, you're comfortable speaking in front of your friends and your family.
Yes.
Right? You'll talk there.
Yeah.
Your BNI meeting becomes that. Now you have a safe place to practice, right? To become your better self. And if you want it, they'll give you the positive feedback. Hey, what could I have done better? What was I not clear on? How did I do? Right? And they're rooting for you. Like, they want to see you succeed. Tell me another room you can walk into and find that. You can't pay for that.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying it's a hack, because it ticks so many boxes for what entrepreneurs need, especially as they're starting and growing their business. For me, it ticks like this thing and this thing and this thing. And that's why, I stretched myself too thin earlier this year, and I started joining other organizations like the Rotary, Chambers, etc. And right now, when things are busy, which is knock on wood, I'm grateful that things are growing very, very quickly in our business. The only thing I'm no compromises on is BNI. And not that the other organizations are bad or anything. It's just that the level of commitment I have for BNI, because it provided me of so many things. And you're right. It starts, I joined to grow my business, but now I have so many reasons to stay and to help others more than just growing my business.
I want to talk a little bit about other organizations, because I think there's some misunderstanding out there. I'm speaking specifically now to chambers of commerce. A lot of chambers of commerce look at BNI as competition. We are not your competition. We are your partner. You serve a different purpose. People go to chamber meetings, yes, they want to get business from it. But how many people go to chamber meetings to buy? Nobody.
No.
You're in a room full of sellers, so you're not going to sell anything there. You might build a relationship that may lead to something down the road. But chambers of commerce are there to support the local business owners. They're there to advocate for them, right, with local government, with state government, with county government, with the federal government. Those are what chambers of commerce are. That's their focus, right, is to advocate on behalf of local businesses. And we want to support them. We don't do that. We are focused on referrals. So what I tell people, what I tell my BNI members is you absolutely need to belong to other organizations. BNI by itself is not enough. You will have success within BNI, but here's another hack. How do you go to a chamber event or a Rotary event, right? Rotary, they're a philanthropic organization, wonderful organization. We're a partner for them too, right? By the way, nonprofits don't have to pay for their first year membership in BNI. We like to give back. But how do you go to those events? How do you go to those organizations and be successful there? You take your networking skills that you learned in BNI and you apply them there.
The giver's gain.
The giver's gain. How can I help you? How can I grow your business? You hear somebody that has a problem. I know somebody that can help you with that. You're solving problems for them. That's how you can use those skills. And then you're going to build relationships there. People are going to get to know, like, and trust you. And what do you know? Then you're going to get business there, right? So I want to clear the air on that, especially with chambers of commerce, Rotaries. We are your partner. Like, I would love to partner with the chambers and the Rotaries of the world and, bring some education there. Allow them to be members in BNI. Like, I would love for chambers and Rotary to be members in BNI chapter. There's just absolutely no reason they can't be. And we want to be their partner because I always look for the win-win.
Yeah.
And that's the win-win.
All right. Last question, Mike.
Sure.
A book and a person that influenced your entrepreneurial journey most.
Is it okay if I give you more than one book?
Go ahead.
Okay.
The more the merrier.
So through BNI, I have my own peer group of other franchise owners. And we're called the 10. There's only 10 of us. We meet every month. Through that group, I've had amazing personal and professional growth. And through them, I've met some amazing people that have changed my life. Everybody in my peer group has been instrumental in every bit of my success that I've had since we formed our group. And that was in 2020, right after the pandemic hit, we formed this. So we've been doing it for going on our 6th year, and it's been amazing. Through them, I've had more professional and intellectual growth than I've ever experienced in my life. I'm going to be 65 years old this year. I've learned more in the last 5 years than I've learned in the first 60 years of my life.
Wow.
A couple of really key books that I think that every entrepreneur, salesperson should read. Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Every entrepreneur needs to read this book. And it's a paradigm shift. It's a mind shift that if you want to own a business and not own a job, you have to read this book. Before you read that book, I would read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. I don't know how many hundreds of millions of copies he's sold on that. And there's some industry-specific ones of that, like there's one for contracting, there's one for accounting. So read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, kind of start the pump. Then read Who Not How by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And then he wrote another book, and it's 10X is better than 2X.
I've read that last one.
And if you read them in that order, it's amazing. Like, you can read them in any order, right? I'm not a voracious reader. I'm not a reader, but I've read those books. And I actually once I read them all and I read them out of order, I went back and I reread them in order.
I'm listening to books these days. I'm using Audible and I'm driving and I'm listening to books.
I can't do that. Like, I think I'm too ADD. Like, I'm just looking around and like I can't listen. My mind, I have to read. I'm just that way, right?
Yeah.
So you'll hear this from people that there's different types of learners. Mm-hmm. There's auditory learners.
Correct.
There's visual
I'm
learners.
auditory,
and there's kinesthetic.
Yeah.
I'm kinesthetic and visual. I am not auditory.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how to do something, right? Let me see it, then I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would read those 3 books for sure. And they'll make a difference in your life. And then one more book. Once you've kind of mastered that stuff and kind of got that mindset, then you need to read The Power of Peers. And this was the book that was instrumental in forming my peer group, the 10. 2 people read it, decided they wanted to start this group, and so they built the group. and interviewed. They invited people into the group, and they interviewed them and voted on whether they were going to get in. I was blessed enough to be invited and accepted into that group. And it teaches you how to build a peer group. So we talked earlier about some of these, very expensive organizations you can join that are advisory groups. You don't need them. You can build your own. Read The Power of Peers. Take what you've learned from those other 3 books we talked about. If you're a BNI member, take what you've learned from BNI. You put that together with The Power of Peers and build a peer group.
And you're set.
You'll crush it. You're set. You need nothing else. You've got everything you need in your toolbox to be successful.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mike Adray, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Naja. I enjoyed being here, and thank you for inviting me here.